Over 6 months ago, I bought a clapped out, rebuilt GR Supra, and ever since then, I've been working on fixing it up and restoring it to its once former glory. I even started modifying it, installing a downpipe, an exhaust. I even threw it on a dyno and tuned it to stage 2, pushing out over 430 wheel horsepower and over 500 pound-feet of torque. But in today's video, we're gonna install a kit from Keys Motorsports to make sure that this Supra isn't just a performance beast, but that it also looks the part. Look at how many boxes this is. And they're not even small boxes. These things are absolutely massive. They're like blocking the view of the Supra right now. Anyways, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If you guys have been following the channel, you'll know that I mentioned I have a whole bunch of mods coming for the Supra. I wasn't lying. Look at all that. So huge shout out and thank you to Keys Motorsports, Brian and Gary and all the guys over there who made this possible. Something I do want to start off with that I feel like the car desperately needs is a front lip. So now it is on me to go through all these boxes, unbox everything, which I won't bore you guys with that process, find where the front lip is, and a few of the other mods I'm hoping to install today, and just get started on that. So again, if you want to see the full transformation, stay tuned because this thing is gonna look insane. And here it is, the new lip for the Supra. You guys can tell it comes in a few pieces, so it's kind of hard to visualize what this is gonna look like on the car, but I guarantee you guys it's gonna look way more aggressive. We have a few pieces, so this one is going to cover those little like side fins. This piece is gonna go something like that. And then this piece is gonna be on the bottom and it's gonna connect to this. So again, it's gonna be hard to visualize it, but I'll install it and you guys can see what it looks like. So we're gonna start off by cleaning the area just to make sure the 3M tape has a nice clean surface to stick onto. Next, we're gonna try to line it up and make sure we get it in one shot, mom's spaghetti. After that, we're gonna repeat the same exact process on the other side, cleaning it off, using 3M tape to stick it on, trying to make sure we line it up perfectly. Hopefully I don't mess it up because that's gonna determine how the rest of the lip fits on. With those two side pieces done, we can move on to the bottom portion. This part is really tough because you have to make sure it lines up perfectly with the left and right side. At this point, it's gonna show if you mess up those first steps. Afterwards, we can move on to the front piece. This one is honestly the easiest to get on because it kind of guides itself in there. But just make sure you don't forget to attach it to the bottom portion because that's what helps it all stay together. And there it is, guys, the new front lip for the GR Supra. What do you guys think? Definitely one of the more tedious installs I've done on a front lip. There's just so many moving pieces. You want to make sure everything aligns because it almost kind of like relies on itself to stay together. Like this piece will connect to this piece, which will then flow into this piece. This piece will also connect into this piece again, right over here. There's actually not too many places where it'll directly contact the car, so you have to make sure fitment is good. And overall, it is pretty good. I would say the area I struggled with the most is this right over here. You guys can see there's a bit of a gap, but otherwise, it's pretty good. We're actually not done with the install yet. We still have one more thing to do, and that is to put self-tapping screws just to hold it in that much more. But given how low the Supra is, I'm actually gonna have to raise up the car so I can just do that. And there you have it, the new front lip for the Supra officially fully installed. Self-tapping screws are in there. Does it feel solid? Nah, that's debatable. But anyways, with this new front lip, I gotta say, the M3 and the Supra look so good next to each other because the Supra doesn't look stock anymore. Like, they both look like two nicely modified cars. Like, look at that. These two things look sick together. It's honestly so satisfying. We got the Supra as a rebuilt title. It was clapped out, had some ghetto window tints, a ghetto faded out hood, a wing that wasn't my style, a whole bunch of stickers, and a whole bunch of just missing parts. And oh, even the headlight, that was also messed up. But we've taken it to a fully stock car, and I say stock as a compliment here because it finally looked normal again. Like, it wasn't clapped. It's been clapped ever since I bought it in August, but now not only is it not clapped, but we're finally modifying it, and it looks like, I don't know, it looks like a car that I'm proud to take to a car show, to take out with friends. It just looks like something I would want to drive. It just looks so freaking cool. But I gotta say, because the front is looking so aggressive, the rest of the car is kind of lacking. So let's work our way back here and install this right over here. I'm sure it was painfully obvious, but just in case it wasn't, these are some carbon fiber side skirts, of course, for the Supra. It's gonna carry on that same wing design, and the cool thing about it, it's gonna add some extra girth. That's a weird word to use, but an extra girth on the front over here. So because this lip is so aggressive and it makes the car a little wider, with this added bit over here, the sides definitely look like they're lacking, but those side skirts are gonna help carry that through all the way to the back. And I mean, come on guys, you can guess what's gonna go on in the rear.
So similar to everything else, we're gonna start off by cleaning it, then lining up some 3M tape to make sure we can stick it on nice and solid to the side of the car. Afterwards, we'll line it up and try to stick it on first try onto the car. And then once that's all done, we'll jack up the car so we have a little more space, so I can actually fit a drill underneath there, and we're just gonna line up a whole bunch of self-tapping screws to make sure that this thing goes nowhere.
That was legit so much easier to install than the front lip. The side skirts are super simple, super easy. The fitment is way better, although the front lip is good, don't get me wrong, but the side skirts, it's like pretty much spot on. Again, this design element right over here is gonna help match the front lip. And then it also has that like winglet look back here. It doesn't completely block the original one. So again, kind of matching the front, but it just adds an extra element. But since the front end of this car and the side is looking really aggressive, it's just kind of emphasizing how, let's just call it stock, the rear end is looking. It just looks a lot more bland in comparison. So I'm sure you can already guess what we're gonna be doing today, but if you can't, we're gonna be installing a super aggressive rear diffuser. And here it is, the new diffuser. Now, I don't know how much you guys can tell with it on the ground like this and not on the car, but this thing is super aggressive. Just look at the sides over here. You can see how much more this piece is gonna kind of like beefing up this area over here. If you guys can't tell, something that's really cool about this diffuser is it's gonna sit underneath the exhaust. So it's gonna create like more of like a race car or a sports car feel.
So I'm gonna start off by giving our carbon piece a nice wipe down. We'll line up some 3M tape so we can stick this thing onto the car. Then we'll give the car itself a nice wipe down just to get rid of all that dirt and debris. And afterwards, we're gonna try to line up the piece best we can to make sure it fits perfectly. Now this step you can do before sticking on the piece. I like to do it after. Just heat it up with a heat gun so that way the adhesive is nice and soft and sticky, just to make sure it holds on even better. And then of course, I'm gonna repeat the same process on the other side.
All right, boys, we ran into our first issue with this diffuser. None of those little side splat things, whatever you wanna call them, those actually look really good. You guys can see just how much more aggressive it makes the rear end. But unfortunately, what we do have an issue with is this exhaust, specifically the exhaust tips. So this obviously is an aftermarket exhaust from AWE. It sounds amazing, it looks sick, and it even has massive exhaust tips, but sometimes bigger isn't always better because these exhaust tips, as cool as they look, they're kind of interfering with the rest of our diffuser. Like I said in the beginning, this piece is supposed to go from each end and go underneath the exhaust, if I can kind of show you with one hand there. But unfortunately, these exhaust tips are so big that it's hitting it. I'm like trying to hold this up with one hand, so it's probably hard to tell, but yeah, it's hitting the exhaust tips, thankfully not by much. So what I'm gonna do is grab a 13 mil, which I don't even have the bit on it yet, but I will eventually. I'm gonna grab a 13 mil and then undo the exhaust tip and then hopefully tilt it up a little bit, just enough, and then retighten it, and hopefully the rest of the diffuser can fit again. I say again like it fit before. Obviously, if you have a stock exhaust or not these massive exhaust tips, you'll be fine. I'm hoping this works, But yeah, that might be an issue. The other thing is, I wonder if the heat from the exhaust tips will kind of destroy the diffuser. There's only one way to find out.
So I'm gonna take my 13 mil. Just kidding. I'm gonna take my 11 mil. Just kidding again. I'm gonna take my 10 mil and undo the exhaust tip. Now, why did I take it off completely? I can't remember, but we're gonna try to line this up a little better, tighten everything down. And before we move forward, I'm gonna test fit the diffuser just to make sure everything works. Unfortunately though, it's still hitting the exhaust tip, so we have to move to plan B. I'm gonna completely remove the exhaust tips and just leave them off the car. We'll figure that out later. Right now, I just really wanna get this diffuser on, so unfortunately, goodbye exhaust tips. With the exhaust tips out of the way, we can start assembling the diffuser with some of the provided hardware. Now, these carbon fins are going to just simply cover the OEM ones. That's because the OEM ones aren't gonna be long enough to connect to this new diffuser. Once again, I'm gonna test it out and make sure that everything fits. Now, unfortunately, I'm installing this by myself, so I'm gonna use the jack to help me hold up the driver's side while I work on the passenger side. So just like everything else, we're gonna give it a nice wipe down. We'll line it up with some 3M tape. We're gonna stick it onto the side splats that we already installed. And then I'm going to lower the other side, so that way we can give that side a nice wipe down, line up some 3M tape as well. And then I'm gonna try to make sure everything lines up. Because I already stuck on the other side, I don't have as much room to play with to make sure everything lines up, but it is what it is. We're gonna make it work.
So that was stressful, especially trying to do it with just being a single person. The jack did come in handy, but yeah, here's the final product, guys. Unfortunately, we didn't get this to line up. I guess where I put the 3M tape, it's actually not making contact. Thankfully though, there are some spots for some self-tapping screws underneath, so I'm gonna hold this in and then try to self-tap it, and hopefully that will be enough to hold it in place. You guys can tell, I did put the exhaust tips back on, so yeah, probably not the best for the finish of the diffuser, but I'd rather have them on, and even if the diffuser gets wrecked in this spot, I don't really care. So we're gonna basically self-tap this in. You guys can see it's literally hitting right up against the exhaust tips. Once that's in its kind of final position, we'll then tighten up the exhaust tips, and then we should be pretty good. Like I said, if you have your factory exhaust, this won't be an issue. These AWE exhaust tips are massive. So what I might even do in the future is get some different exhaust tips and see if that works. Although I do really like the big tips you get with this exhaust, but if we gotta change it up just for it to work, we'll change it up. But anyways, at this point, we're gonna try to put some self-tapping screws in to these various areas. So obviously over here, and then at the edges as well. And we'll try to get these exhaust tips to line up the best we can. And then I'll show you guys the finished product. So like I said, I put some self-tapping screws right in the center over there. I tried to put some on the edges, but they weren't really reaching. So I think the 3M tape is gonna be enough to hold on the sides. What I'm most worried about is the center, but as you guys can tell, it's pretty solid. Now I will say, the exhaust tips are touching the carbon, so that's obviously not ideal. But yeah guys, just check this out. Look how good that looks. Oh my goodness. But like I said, we still have one more mod to install. Now if you guys can't guess what it is, I mean, come on. It's gonna be a spoiler. And that's this right over here. A nice, subtle, like extended duckbill spoiler for the Supra. Again, this is gonna look aggressive and it's gonna add more character, but it's not gonna be too much, at least not in my opinion. Look at that. Oh my goodness, this spoiler is so sick. Again, it's subtle, but it's still aggressive, and it just flows with that diffuser. Like the rear end of this thing looks menacing. But otherwise, guys, that was a super easy install. And again, just look at the rear end of this thing. That looks insane. And remember, we already installed the front lip and the side skirts. So this whole thing right now looks absolutely menacing. By the way, I love the fact that you can see the spoiler from here. Oh my God. I'm like falling in love with this car all over again. But like I said, we still have some more stuff from Keys Motorsports. And to go along with that stuff, I even ordered some more stuff. So stay tuned, guys. We have a lot more to do to the Supra still. So the exterior of the car is looking really good. In fact, my favorite angle of it is the rear end. Like, absolutely love this diffuser especially. It just looks super aggressive, super mean. But since the exterior of the car is looking super aggressive, we need to make the engine bay match. So we have two pieces to install today. One is going to be a replacement carbon piece for this here, which is actually a big piece of this engine bay. This Supra has a super long hood, and the engine only comes up to here. So all this, I believe, is just going to be like the radiators and stuff. So Toyota put this like piece to cover it all up. So it's just a thin sheet of, I believe, aluminum. But today we're going to be replacing it with carbon. And not only are we going to be doing that, we're also going to be getting rid of these ugly strut braces. And here is the new strut bar. This is the only way I can show you guys because it's multiple pieces. So these two are going to replace what's currently on the car, those ugly silver pieces, with these nicer red ones. And then it's also going to add some extra rigidity because it's going to have a piece that goes from here to here, which is this piece here. Now again, this is going to look almost identical to the one that Toyota actually gives you in newer Supras. This one just says Blitz. That's the company that makes it. But again, the newer Supras pretty much come with this same exact strut bar, except I think it says GR. So I know a lot of people actually get OEM Supra strut braces from Toyota and then they'll retrofit them on their earlier model Supras. I mean, that's cool and all, but it's way more expensive that way. This strut bar is like 200 bucks off eBay or something like that. So I would highly recommend just doing it this way instead of getting the OEM Toyota ones. Again, you're just getting a logo. That's the only real difference you're getting. The other thing we have is this beautiful carbon piece for the engine bay. Like I said, this is from Keys Motorsports. So again, huge shout out to the guys over there. This piece is super thin and lightweight. You guys can see it. It's literally just straight up carbon fiber, no ABS plastic or anything like that. Like I said, the piece that's currently on the car is just a thin piece of either sheet metal or aluminum. I'm gonna guess aluminum. So this will be a nice, simple replacement. It's just gonna give the engine bay that much more character. But anyways, these should be pretty simple and easy installs. So let's just get right into it and I'll show you guys the finished product.
So I'm gonna start off by removing the external bolts holding on the strut brace. These are pretty tight, so use a bigger ratchet, maybe some power tools, or just struggle like I did. Next, I'm going to remove the metal shroud. It's just held on by a whole bunch of 10mm bolts. Unfortunately though, some of them are harder to reach than others. You will have to remove that weather stripping on the front. You'll even have to remove a whole bunch of 10mm bolts holding on the top of the bumper, just so that way you can get to the 13mm bolts. Some of them are even hidden underneath the plastics of the engine bay. Thankfully though, this was easy for me because my plastics aren't really held on by anything. And what felt like a million bolts later, we can finally start to remove the metal shroud. Unfortunately though, this was a lot easier said than done. It took a lot of finessing, but eventually I got it out.
So that was more annoying than I expected, and it's honestly because this thing has so many bolts, a lot of which are hidden underneath these plastics or even underneath the whole bumper over here. So I actually had to use a wrench to get to these ones, just enough so we can slide it out. And then the other thing is my freaking intake made it even worse because it goes over it. So I had to like finesse it and get it out of there, but eventually we did it. So we have the old piece over here as well as the new piece. You do have to transfer these little grommets, I think you want to call them. These things, these are a pain to get out as well. Just use something like this, it'll help you out. But anyways, this piece is ready to go back in, but before we reinstall it, you can tell this bar is super dirty. Not too worried about the dirt specifically, but this sticker over here. So I'm gonna spray this down with some glass cleaner or something and just see if I can clean this off, because well, if we put that beautiful carbon piece and then we have this ugly old peeled off sticker sitting here, this is gonna kill the whole vibe of it. So let's get rid of that and then we'll reinstall the new piece and then we'll get to reinstalling the strut brace.
So I started off by installing the carbon replacement piece. This was tougher than removing the previous one because you really have to work with the area that you have and try to fit this in a way without cracking the carbon fiber. Eventually I realized sliding in the front first was the best way to do it. After that, I managed to get everything else to line up. After that, I hand threaded all the bolts before I went ahead and tightened them down. That way I can just make sure that everything fits in and I can get all the bolts to go in. With that piece done, we can move on to the strut bars. Similar concept. I put everything in place, I put the bolts in, but again, I made sure I held off on tightening everything all the way down. Since all the bolts were still loose, it made installing the centerpiece that much easier. I was able to line everything up, use the provided hardware, and then with everything in place, I can just tighten it down to spec.
And after tying up some loose ends, everything is officially installed. You guys can see how good this all looks. I love this carbon piece. It's not like out there in your face, but it looks good, man. It fills in this whole like big empty spot, which used to be just this plain sheet metal, aluminum, whatever it is. But now we have this beautiful, genuine carbon fiber. I feel like we need more carbon in the engine bay now. Also, these strut braces are absolutely stunning. The red and the black, it suits the engine bay so well. If you guys didn't know, we already did some stuff to this engine bay. We have a keys charge pipe, which comes in that beautiful powder-coated gloss black. We also have the MST intake over here with the red cone, so all kind of blends nicely. We need to get some like golden wrench caps or something, get some additional red accents on the oil cap and also on the coolant reservoirs. But overall, guys, I think this looks absolutely stunning. It's not too much in your face, but I think it's the perfect amount. In addition to looking good, this strut brace should add some extra rigidity to the front end. Will we notice it? Probably not. We're not tracking the car, but it looks good, and that's the most important part. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. But otherwise, we are done for today. So nice, simple installs for the most part. And now the Supra is looking good from the exterior as well as the engine bay. What we need to start focusing on next is the interior and also the wheels. I know, guys, I'm working on it. Just remember, we started off with a clapped car, so we've made some good progress already. I'm already proud of myself. But anyways, as always, huge shout out and thank you to Keys Motorsports for the carbon fiber. If you guys want it, there'll be some links down in the description below. Again, the strut bar I just got from eBay. I'll leave a link for that as well. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop it a like, hit that subscribe button. And with that said, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.